It's the Funny Comics Fan Club.
Hello and welcome to the Funny Comics Fan Club with me, Dr. Mark Hibbett.
And me, not Dr. John Dredge.
There he is. Are you right, John?
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to looking at this week's silly comic, actually.
Oh,
after last time's incomprehensible mess that was Marvel Madhouse.
God, we didn't get on with that at all, did we?
I particularly didn't like it. I think you gave it a fair whack, a fair hearing.
I think you didn't like it for personal emotional reasons, and I didn't like it for academic learning reasons, and together we just didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. So, sorry, Stanley, or whoever the hell it was behind it. But what are we looking at this time, Mark?
This time, John, we're looking at Knockout comic from the 7th of October 1972.
Excellent. We'd better explain why it's from the 7th of October 1972. Okay, what's the reason?
It was available cheap on eBay.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. That's why.
You don't need to know anything more about that.
I paid almost £2 for this.
Wow.
Almost £2, and that's a markup of about 80% because it cost 2.5 pence when it came out. So
we need to get a Patreon page going immediately. I could have afforded this in 1972, 2.5p.
Could you though? Because you were 2 years old in 1972. Were you actually being given money as a 2-year-old?
I don't think so. No, I was like babyface Finlayson back then.
What, robbing banks?
Robbing banks and going around in a motorised pram. Yeah. So that's why I had enough money for this. Every Monday, every flaming Monday. Look at that at the top there, listeners.
Oh, yes.
Or you can have a look on our socials and read along with us lot. It says the Great All-Colour Weekly Treat. Can you spot the mistake? It's not all colour.
Well, let's be fair. I think you might think all the strips will be in full colour.
That's what it seems to imply.
That seems to play.
That's what it seems to imply.
That's not actually true.
Not actually true.
All the strips have a colour in them.
It might not be your favourite colour.
But it's a colour.
It is a colour.
And if you put them together...
What do you get?
All the colours. All the colours.
But, I mean, some of the use of colour is really brilliant, in my opinion. Some of it I really love, actually. Like, at the front cover here, Joker. So the logo of Joker, or whatever you call it, it says Joker there. What would you call that? Not a logo. I don't know what it is.
I'd call it a logo.
Call it a logo, John. Right, I will.
You're a logo.
Don't call me a logo. So it's got Joker in great big letters, but each letter is coloured differently. I just love that, and it's the same on the back with Fusspot. You've got the logo in all different colours, so each letter is a different colour pretty much. I just really liked that for some reason. It just seemed a
really
nice
yeah.
use of it.
But then inside, there's a lot of the old practice of British comics where they'd have a single colour for highlights in it. So every page does have that. But the weird thing is, I thought the funny thing was they seem to have they must have spent some money on the printing, which they saved on the paper. Because this is the worst paper. It's like, it makes newspaper look luxurious, doesn't it? It's terrible.
It's fallen to bits, yeah.
And you can see through every page, can't you? Because it's so thin and cheaply done.
And even worse, whoever had this before has cut bits out, so we can't give you a full and complete review, unfortunately. In fact, it says on the Pete's Pockets page, bit of alliteration there, language fans. On the first panel it says, oh no, that's torn it, and then someone has actually torn it.
That's true, they have.
I noticed that. That's quite appropriate, I felt.
Really deep, that.
Yeah, very deep. Yeah. Just have a think about that.
Well, you've mentioned the fact, so Joker's on the front, Fusspot's on the back, and we've already looked at Joker and Fusspot when we did Whizzer and Chips.
Well, Knockout, I believe, only went on for a couple of years.
1971 to 1973, it says here.
So not a lot of knockouts. I mean, what was it, 100-odd issues or something like that. Yeah. Joker and Fusspot both were long-running characters in other comics, weren't they?
They went on to be, yeah.
And this is where they started.
This is where they started. And interesting, when it merged in with Whizzer and Chips, quite a lot of the strips in Knockout went over, because there's only 20 pages in Knockout, because it's really cheap. And there were 32 pages of Whizzer and Chips, so there's a bit of space for the characters to be moved through. And yeah, and some of them, Joker and Fusspot especially, are really big characters that have lasted for another 20 years or so, didn't they?
But I remember Knockout, even though that sounds weird, but it was like my gran had these old Knockout annuals from somewhere. She must have bought them in a jumble sale, something like that. So I have a fond memory of Knockout annuals, and therefore some of the characters were familiar to me. And
right.
I just remember them. It was just a happy memory for me looking at this, even though I'd never really seen a proper issue of the comic. Do you remember? I don't
remember it at all.
No.
But my question to you is: do Nans still go to jumble? Are there still jumble sales? Are there still Nans rifling through the jumpers and stuff?
I don't know. There are still village halls.
There are still village halls,
which is where a lot of jumble sales used to be.
Yeah.
So I presume they are. Maybe they don't call them that now. Maybe they call them clothing suppositories or something. Something posh.
Pre-loved antiques fairs, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Antiques markets. That's what they call them now.
And that would be it.
In other words, jumble sales. Don't say that to your antique market sellers, whatever you do.
But I seem to remember spending years. Most of my childhood was either spending in a carpet shop, waiting for somebody to choose a carpet, or at a jumble sale.
I mean, I remember getting. It must have been about 100 beanos in a jumble sale.
Oh, that was amazing when you could do that, isn't it?
And he literally gave it to me for something like half a penny or something. He wanted to get shot of it. And I think I had a £5 note. And I had to wait for the change as a little kid, waiting for this change. Talking of the sort of price and the amount you can get for it, I did notice in here, in Knockout, it says here, subscription to Knockout, £2.75 for 52 issues of Knockout.
Wow.
That's not bad, is it?
I mean, you got it cheaper, obviously.
I got it cheaper. But in today's money, £2.75 is, of course, £75.
That's right. So should we have a look what's in it then? Because I think we're going to have a look. Because we're going to start with Joker.
Joker's on the front.
Joker's on the front. And he looks slightly different because in Wizard and Chips, when we looked at it, it was a few years later, I think he looks older in Wizard and Chips because here he's very, very much a little lad. He's got shorts on. He looks like a kid. And what happens is he's being chased by bullies. Two separate bullies come at him from different directions. He disappears and the bullies think he's in a coal hole.
They think that because there are lots of strange movement lines around this coal hole. Point sort of indicating this coal hole. It's fascinating to me, that.
Not the last coal hole we'll see in Knockout comic. There's more there. Because this is the 1970s, coal holes are everywhere. Did you have a coal shed? We had a coal shed.
I don't remember coal.
You don't remember coal? Oh, I remember it forming. I do, that's all I have.
No, I have no memory of coal holes, I must admit.
Oh, yeah, we had a coal shed. But then, so the coal man comes around.
I don't remember the coal man either.
He remembers you.
Well, that's because I had a Knockout t-shirt on.
And he dumps the coal down the coal hole, and then it turns out that Joker wasn't down the coal hole. He was in the house, which was actually his nan's house.
That was a bit of luck.
That was a bit of luck, wasn't it? Yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
And he's running around. He's like, oh no, where can I hide? It's like, well, shouldn't you be in your nan's house anyway? Maybe he thought she was at a jumble sale. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, Joker, I'm not a big fan of that character. All he does is play jokes on people.
Yeah.
Hence the name Joker. But I don't really like people who play jokes on people now. I guess I did when I was a kid. I guess every kid likes that idea. So that must be why it was so popular.
Sort of being naughty, yeah.
Yeah, like Just William or something. Although Just William is 100 times funnier than this.
Or Roger the Dodger, I suppose, is another one, isn't it?
But I still liked it. I still just like the feel of it and the look of it. It
Yeah.
looks great to me as a silly comic.
Yeah, and we're going to move over. I'll move us on to a next one, which is. But before we get, I just wanted to stop at the Beat Your Neighbour strip. It's a long time ago. This is over 50 years ago, and there's a bit in Beat Your Neighbour where they're competing around washing lights, and one of the dads said, "These new rotary clotheslines go round and round." And it's like, oh, how exciting.
That sounds like an advert for the time. New rotary clotheslines go round and round. Guaranteed. Going round and round.
I just thought it was amazing. It's like, because sometimes you look at these and you think, well, these are quite funny. What they're doing is just kids fighting other kids and stuff. It's all like fun. And then it's like, wow, imagine a rotary clothesline. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
But the strip I want to talk about, you'll be amazed to find that I have chosen the Class War strip again.
I think there was a strip in one of these comics called something like Class Wars.
It was called Class Wars.
What was that in?
It was about two school classes fighting each other. One was posh and one was not posh.
Do you know what the comic was? Was it WoW or something like that? Or School Fun? It was probably School Fun.
It's what we've done, I think.
Is it one we've done?
I think so.
If you know at home, that's the competition for this week.
Have you been paying more attention than we have? Call in now.
Yeah, on our hotline number. The Toffs and the Toughs, yeah. Yet another of these Class 4 comic strips, as you say.
It's amazing, isn't it? And in this one, there's some the Toffs live in an actual Dracula-style castle, and the Toughs live in a shed.
That struck me as being, quite unfortunate. These kids just living in this sort of shed that's about to fall down is. I feel quite sorry for them even now.
I do.
There's no parents around.
There's no parents around.
No
They're
adult
orphans.
figures.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, so it starts off with like, cool, the little tree we planted ages ago is coming along fine, and they're looking at an apple tree. It's like, well, how old are you then? It takes years for an apple tree to grow.
This particular issue seems to be apple themed. Have you noticed that?
Apples and coal holes.
There's a lot of stuff about fruit in this. Is that
There
because
is.
it's like in the middle of like, autumn or something? I suppose it is October, is that
I don't
right?
know.
So, apples were falling from the trees or something? I don't know, around this time.
Yeah, I have
Vaguely
noticed that.
topical.
I think we talked about this before, haven't we? There's this kind of crossover period where the DC Thompson comics are a bit more old-fashioned, and in those the kids are always hungry and wanting food. Because when we did the Dandy, the Jocks and the Geordies were angry with each other because somebody had an apple. And go, yum, yum, I've got an apple. Look
Same
at me.
story here.
Yeah. And here they're going like, oh no, we're really looking forward to these apples.
Having some apples, having 5 apples off the tree.
Yeah.
And then the toffs, they nabble the apples, don't they? And then they've already got hundreds of apples anyway. This is exactly like Ivor Lot and Tony Broke from, a few episodes ago.
But you're right, isn't it? It just seems to be like kids are going, oh, brilliant, an apple.
It was simpler times.
It was a very, very simpler time. But then the story isn't particularly simple, is it? Because then
not
what
at all.
happens then is the toffs then get a delivery of fruit, which has like an articulated lorry to bring it, because it's like
Giant fruit.
giant fruit.
Giant fruit, not explained. It's just giant fruit.
It's just
There
giant
it
fruit.
is. Yeah, there's not much in the way of a logical not much logical thought in this. one.
No. But then, so the toffs throw a massive apple at the toffs, which destroys their shed.
So they're where they're living is completely destroyed, and the toffs are quite happy to do that.
They
So
find
now
it
the
amusing,
toughs are now homeless, but they use their ingenuity and they make a little shed out of the giant apple.
Yeah. But then...
They live happily for quite a while, as it says here. That's what it says here. I didn't make that up. I don't make up the rules.
Core. That was a good shake.
Oh,
Sorry, I spoiled you now. But then what happens is, so the toffs then send their servants out, so they turn the working class against their comrades, and the servants set out to eat the house that the children are living in, and the children don't realise this has happened, so they wait. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But then it becomes a lot more sensible.
It doesn't become any more
Then
sensible.
things calm down a lot.
No, they don't.
Because what they do is they feed maggots. So the maggots are in one maggoty apple. They feed those maggots to the giant apples. And of course, as we'll all know, through the use of science, what happens is the maggots become gigantic maggots as well. Obviously, that's always what's going to happen.
We're going to have to put this on the socials because this is very complicated to explain. I think you've shown. But yeah, it's like there's no like internal world. I don't know, no internal logic to this story. It suddenly becomes really surreal.
Yeah, very, very odd.
It's not. It starts off maybe a bit traditional. You think it's going to be traditional, and then it's got sort of touches of just mad, insane things happening.
Yeah,
that wouldn't really happen in this fictional world. So I wasn't a big fan of this particularly.
And because it's drawn by Reg Parler as well, he usually does really normal-looking things.
That's right. That's probably what it is. It looks normal.
And if anybody's wondering what happens at the end, basically, obviously, the obvious thing that happens in the end is that the toffs slip over a gigantic banana skin, which the toffs use to replace their destroyed accommodation.
Yeah. So they all lived happily ever after, as I say.
Happily ever after.
And you can just go through it in your own time on the socials.
But interesting, I was reading online, and I was reading what I always read as my main source of information for these, which is Great News for All Readers blog.
Oh, we love that. We love that.
We do love that. And he says there that Millionaire and Penny Less are two of the characters in this.
Is that right?
Apparently.
That is something. There's no mention of any characters' names in this.
There's not, is there? No, in the Knockout Extended Universe.
They could be anybody. But so who are we to argue?
Who are we to argue?
With Great News for All Readers. Missed any good magazines lately?
No.
Then you need Starburst. There's only one way to guarantee that you never miss an issue of Britain's premier fantasy magazine, Starburst. Subscribe! Think of it.
Ooh.
Every issue delivered to your own front door. Not anyone else's. Starburst now covers a wider range of fantasy than ever before. Look at the wide range of it. No other magazine offers you
up-to-minute news of all the latest happenings in the worlds of TV and cinema fantasy.
Exclusive interviews with the stars, directors, producers and technicians of all your favourite fantasy movies and shows.
Critical reviews of the current science fiction, horror and fantasy offerings.
Informed and informative retrospective features. I'm getting really bored of this magazine, actually. Plus, regular columns devoted to news and reviews of fantasy in films, books, records and television.
Complete coverage of fantasy in the media in one magazine.
That's a strange sentence for
That is a
someone
strange
putting a
sentence,
magazine together. Must be Marvel!
Starburst!
Get it now or don't bother.
The next one to look at, which this is the third one of mine I've really chosen.
Why have you chosen these particular ones? I mean,
Because there seems to be a theme. So the next one I've chosen is Son of Sir.
so this is like green and black and white.
Yeah, so that's
Green
this.
and black and white. That's the colour, folks.
So
That's the all colour bit.
Toffs and Tuffs was blue, which actually looking back, why would you choose blue for a story with loads of fruit in it?
Well, green is obviously being used in other strips.
Yeah.
You know, they can't afford all that green.
There's lovely blue apples and blue oranges. Like blue oranges.
Is it more expensive to use colour then? It must be.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Because you have to print it another time. If you print when it's black and white, you print once for the black, and then you have to go in again and print the colour. A friend of mine, Guy Lawley, he's doing his PhD on exactly this and how the printing works in comics. So
Is it?
I know more than perhaps I'd
There you go.
ever expected to know about colour printing. But yeah, so it's cheaper to do one. It's cheaper to do black and white. Then if you do one colour, it's slightly more expensive. And if you do full colour, you have to do cyan, magenta, and yellow. So that there's actually 3 colours go on.
There you go.
These comics,
There
there
we
you
are.
go.
So anyway, you've decided to look at Son of Sir.
Yeah, because Son of Sir is a weird one. I say nobody knows. What I mean is great news for readers doesn't know who drew it.
Oh right.
So
Nobody
it looks a
knows,
bit
I see.
different. For one reason I picked it is because it's just another strip which is saying to kids, the world is corrupt. The world is out to... Because what happens is Sir is a teacher and he's just massively favourable to his son who's in his class. Yeah. And it's like going, yeah, kids, this is how the world works. This is what's going to happen.
I wish I'd read this strip earlier.
I know, yeah. It would have prepared you for life in showbiz, wouldn't it? It's like,
It would have just prepared me for everything, I think, yeah.
Why have they got all this? Because their parents work in the industry. This is why. And that's what happened. That's all the way through it.
Yeah,
and
wow.
Sir is just like a swine. Really. He's horrible.
Yeah, he's horrible.
So the other kids have to unite. The thing again is his class war. The proletariat of kids have to unite against their oppressors. They must then become alienated from the situation, realise, unite, and try and overthrow the bourgeois represented by a teacher and his son.
Yeah, and this is all happening in Son of Sir from Knockout 2.5p. You get all that for 2.5p.
I think there's even a quote from Karl Marx at the top. Sir really is the biggest cheat. He makes the boys pound the beat. Thank you, go.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
The story is just not very interesting, is it? I mean, it's not a very good strip, really, in my opinion. I mean, it's nothing to mark it out. The kids are all quite violent to this brat. You know, they give him a good pasting, really, with a big face printing set or something.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Smack him in the face with it. I wasn't impressed with this. It went in one eye and out the other.
Well, I thought there were some odd bits. It's like, when you look in the back, there's one strip, this page here, where there's the cat.
Just a cat there.
With a police helmet on.
And then the horses, the police horses they go to see at the end of the strip also have police helmets on.
Yeah.
So that's quite a nice little touch.
And then there's a bit where somebody hides inside a shoe. And
Yeah.
a normal child hides within a shoe. Also, what I really love is there are slap-up feeds in this, aren't there? There are good old slap-up feeds.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
That's a nice thing to see. But yeah, I mean, I can take or leave that.
Well, let's leave it then.
Let's leave it. Pass on to it now. Aha! No!
Yes.
This.
What is it?
The Super 7.
Super 7.
Nobody's ever heard of the Super 7, but I'd heard of it. I remembered this from being around my grounds. I remembered really liking this strip. I still like it. This is one of my favourite ever comic strips now, I've realised. The Super 7. And so it's essentially 7 kids, and they've all got, and each one has got one almost like superpower or something that he's really good at. They're not exactly superheroes, they're just kids, but they've got one thing they're really good at. So I'm going to tell you now what they're good at. Dead-Eye Dick He's good at shooting things from catapults.
Thank goodness for that.
Thunderball, he can throw marbles around very accurately with super force. And his full name is Mickey Thunderball, just to let you know that. Mickey Thunderball. Wonder Wheels can drive. That's Wonder Wheels.
It was the 70s. I mean, for a woman to be able to drive then, that was probably quite exciting.
Yeah. Stinker's got loads of stink bombs and he can throw them with incredible accuracy. A lot of accuracy here. Windy can blow up bubblegum to like giant size or blow other things like and create gale winds and all this. Booter is very good at football. Whistler. Now Whistler, there's a character.
What can he do?
Have a guess. What do you think, listeners?
Can he run really quickly?
I can see where you're going with that. Come back, because Whistler can actually whistle very loudly.
Can he? Can he indeed?
Why he didn't get more fans, I couldn't tell you. I thought he'd get his own spin-off comic. Whistler, you could have the Whistler fan club. You could have badges.
We could have whistles.
That's something you could have. Yeah. They're always giving them away anyway, so why not, link it up with this great undiscovered character, Whistler. And you can find out more about Whistler nowhere.
Well, they're like a superhero team, aren't they?
But they're ordinary kids, but they've got these almost powers, these superpowers sort of thing. Hence the Super 7.
Super 7. And it is great. I mean,
do you like it?
I think it's... one of the things I like about it is how good it looks.
Looks just fantastic. This is full colour in the centre spread. Full colour. Looks cool.
And it's drawn by Mike Lacey, who's drawn lots and lots of stuff, and Sid Snake and all this. And I think usually his style is quite simple. But I don't know, here there's a bit more detail in. And I love the way that the full colour here on this really, really cheap paper has really worked. Because the colours, it's absorbed the colour and it just looks so nice.
It looks terrific. And the story isn't... I mean, this isn't the best episode that they've ever done, I don't think, by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, what it is this little kid standing by the field and the Super 7 are there. The little kid says, "Mean old farmer Tightfist, he won't let me into his field to get a few conkers." It's funny that his surname became so appropriate, to this person as he grew up.
I imagine maybe they just live in an area like where that happens. Like, go, well, what should we call this baby? Whistler? That's fine.
I mean, yeah, we all know of his mother. So then the Super 7 say, "Aha! A job for the Super 7," and they've got a really brilliant car or vehicle they drive around in, which is a carty with a dustbin tied to the front.
We're doing well, aren't we? Yeah, carties,
dustbins.
Yeah.
Not quite sure why the dustbin's there, but we'll let that pass for the minute. But they don't. This farmer Tightfist, he doesn't want anyone trespassing, or he'd call the authorities and have them, I don't know, incarcerated.
Yeah, but this is my question to you about all this. So the whole story is about them trying to get some conkers from this farmer Tightfist tree.
The entire story.
The entire story is about that, and they use all their superpowers to try and get it in crazy, wacky ways. Why does Farmer Tightfist not want them to have it? He's determined not to let them have these conkers. He brings out a combine harvester. He unleashes wild animals on them. Why? What was he going to use them for? Is he farming conkers?
He's farming bonkers. That's what I think.
He's farming bonkers, he is.
That is where the story falls down.
Okay.
And speaking with your insightful analytical brain, and your PhD,
oh goodness,
in this sort of thing,
I'll get to use it at last, yeah,
or maybe not, because you can't answer the question why.
Why?
With all that knowledge, you can't find the answer here. If you know, listeners, keep it to yourself, because nobody really knows.
But that's because then at the end of it, like. Because he's clearly not harvesting them for his own use. Because he jumps up and down on what he thinks are conkers, going, and he says, these conkers won't be any good to anyone now.
And he jumps on them.
Why didn't you let the kids have them then?
As I say,
I
haven't got a PhD in comics. I can't really be of any further assistance in this matter. Sounds like Remains of the Day. I'm unable to assist you in any of these matters.
I like Remains of the Day. I enjoy the work of Kashua Ishiguro very much.
But look at the remains of the Conkers, because they're literally... They've been destroyed, but they turn out not to be Conkers, because they turn out to be stink bombs, which Stinker has carefully deployed in the bag, and then the farmer faints with the awful stench of it. Then here comes the to save the day. It's Whistler.
How does Whistler save the day?
He whistles really loudly, and then the rest of the kids from the town come along, and they nick all the conkers. And so the Super 7 have won. They have triumphed. They have done everything they set out to do. Well done.
It's great. So I would have liked if Anthony Hopkins had turned up.
As Farmer Typhus.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. He could be.
Because I'm too repressed.
Yeah, exactly. But
maybe that's it. Maybe the farmer is like retentive, and he just wants to. Maybe he's been like he hasn't had security through his life, and now these are his conkers, and he wants them. These children represent the forces that were taken from him, and are the forces that do in fact take them from him.
Or maybe he's like that bloke in Silence of the Lambs and is just psychotic.
Gosh, yeah,
a psychotic farmer. That would pep things up a bit, because he does seem like quite a psychotic, doesn't he, in his own way. I don't like him.
I don't like him either. No. I wanted to like him because I felt that, the Typhus family had probably been through a lot, haven't they?
Being born with a name like that, what chance did he have?
What chance did they have?
But, I mean, the Super 7, you got to read it, kids. You got to read it. Yeah. I loved it.
And what have you got next? What's your next one?
Next on the agenda, now we're going on to a strip called My Bruvver in green.
For those keeping track at home.
This podcast is in colour. It's brilliant.
All colour.
So, My Bruvver is about this little tearaway. You don't get his name in this. And his brother Len, which is a really old-fashioned name. And the brother Len is often left with this little scamp. And it's the wacky adventures that occur. So nothing very... Again, it's apple-based.
Apple and coal hole based. There's a coal hole right at the start.
He falls down a coal hole right at the start, as Mark so clearly said that. And poor old Len. But then they go apple picking. So the apple... And then the little tyke throws an apple at Len, who falls off the ladder. And then the little kid starts running away. And Len throws a load of apples under his feet, which stops when he falls over. The little kid falls over because of this. But Len says a phrase that I've never heard of. Have you? Ho ho, I've got a plan of my own rolling now. Is that a phrase?
I've got a plan of my own rolling now.
Oh, okay. Either way, it's very difficult to understand, let alone if you're 7. But anyway, what I like about this, I didn't particularly like the story, but I really liked this little feature they have at the end of the page, where you can write in with anything hilarious that your brother and sister has done. I really like that.
It's a nice idea.
They win 50p, for heaven's sake. That's
just for writing in.
What's that? 30 times the price of the magazine here. For example, Alison Phyllis from Leeds has written in and says, "My sister sometimes comes out with the funniest things."
Does she?
Well, I think we'll be the judge.
I think we know from experience where this is going to go, don't we?
The other day she said, "When I have a child, I hope my daughter will be a girl." And
then she said something funny.
They cut that out. John Brady from Ardwick has written in, "My brother was curious when Dad told him that men had been looking for gas leaks in our road. Why? Who has lost them?" asked my brother. And if you want to send your entries to Knockout, it's the usual address. But I thought that was a nice little bit at the end.
I really like the strip. I mean, I really like
Terry Bave, I think.
Terry Bave, yes, at it again. I just like the fact that this relation, because I've got a little brother.
I've got a little sister.
Yeah.
That's probably why I relate to it. Yeah. Well, lots of people relate to it.
And I think, but this kind of relationship where it's like the brother is quite a lot older than the little brother. My little brother's 11 years younger than me, and he's a joy to us all because he does listen sometimes. But then it's just this relationship between the two of them. It's the people's going, "Oh, go on, Benny, all right, I've got to go and do this."
Yeah. It's like me with my sister who's 5 years younger than me. No wonder people wrote in. No wonder kids wrote in and really, got involved with it, because it's something we all know about. Yeah. So a brilliant idea. I don't know. The story this week isn't that good, but as I say, I really like the little letter feature. And then moving on to this thing here, the Full House, just quickly.
Yeah.
The Full House is a family, and it's all sorts of funny things that allegedly happen to them. But at the end of this, the parents are chasing after their children, brandishing what can only be described as large planks of wood, presumably to strike these children with.
It was a different time.
It was 1972. What do you
My
expect?
parents used to batter me with lumps of wood all the time to do me any harm.
Yeah, that just struck me, as you might say, as a bit much. But anyway,
Well, what's struck me about that one is that, I mean, it looked beautifully. Mum's got a headscarf. The baby's got a bonnet. It's all is running. Why is it called Full House? They've got a flipping massive house.
oh yeah,
There's only 4 of them. It's like, what's so full about that? They could fit into somebody else, I'm sure. But
take it to the comics codes. But nevertheless, it was quite fun, wasn't it? Aha! Right. Now, this is another highlight for me only, I think. I suspect no one else will be interested. The Adventures of the Cresta Bear.
yes, advertising. Does it say advertising?
I noticed that as well.
Yeah.
Normally, in any advertisement or advertisement, however you want to say it, in a comic, you would have advertisement written clearly at the top. Nothing here.
Yeah.
Is that legal, we ask? Could Knockout be sued by the Comics Brigade?
They probably could by now, really. Or maybe this was in a time before they did that. I went, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah, that might be right. But the Adventures of the Cresta Bear. So this was a series of adverts. I think it must have gone into lots of different comics. I mean, I don't know. I can't say for sure. But the Cresta Bear was... I've got some information about this, actually. Cresta was a frothy, fruit-flavoured drink produced in the United Kingdom by Schweppes from the early 70s through to the early 90s.
Goodness me.
I thought it went out with the ark, you know. But the Cresta polar bear was the main mascot used to advertise this. And he sort of talked like that, hey, what's going on here? You know, he sort of had this strange accent. But it was a big hit, the Cresta Bear. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But it was created by the same people that did the Honey Monster and things like that.
Oh, right.
So the Adventures of the Cresta Bear is only about 7 panels on this page. They're big, nice and big, so you can see what's going on, unlike Marvel Madhouse. It's the polar, if you pardon the expression, opposite of Marvel Madhouse.
Very good, very good.
It just occurred to me just then. This is what you get for your money, listeners. So the story is quite simple. The Cresta Bear, with his dark glasses on, has entered the cross-Arctic race alongside other polar bears. He says, I'll need these Crestas for after the race. He's got some bottles there. Then they clear off. The bears, he says, hey, those bears are too fast for me. But Cresta Bear has an idea. He shakes up the bottles, takes off the caps, and the resulting fizz powers him to the finish line. And at the end, he shouts the catchphrase we all know, it's frothy, man. So I don't know. I like the colours of it. I like the basicness of it. I like the sort of fluorescentness of it.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because it looks completely different from all the rest of the comic. When they did this, it will be somebody in an ad agency would have drawn it, not somebody who's ever drawn comics before. They don't make it. It's perfectly well done, but it just looks so different. And it's like there's only 3 tiers of 2 panels.
Very basic.
Wavy lines between panels. The Cresta Bear looks exactly the same, and you see the Cresta Bear from exactly the same angle in every single one, like he's drawn an outline of a Cresta Bear.
So that was like less work for the artist.
I assume so, yeah.
That's a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
But to me, it is effective. I just like this sort of
Yeah.
basic artwork. I've always really liked it.
But I think it's quite interesting that the Cresta Bear just doesn't really... He stands completely still.
Yeah, he doesn't really... Yeah, there's no movement
There's
in
no
this
movement from him at
page.
all. Yeah, it's interesting because it's such a different thing.
The colours are all really psychedelic.
Yes, it's psychedelic. That's the word I was going to think.
I don't. Do you remember having Cresta to drink? I really don't remember ever having
Cresta,
that.
No.
But I always preferred, actually, from around the time, I always preferred Corona. Now has unfortunate connotations when you think about coronavirus. But do you remember having Corona?
No, none of that.
Because the adverts around that time, it was sort of similar, but it was bubbles animated, and all these bubbles would go to a gym, and they would train to be fizzy enough to be in this drink.
Oh, yeah.
And the main bubble also had dark glasses on, and he sort of spoke like that, like Telly Savalas or something. And it said, every bubble has passed his physical. I remember really loving those adverts. So I actually preferred those ones, but this is still a nice addition to the comic. And then we have one more, this thing called Little Devil here. I mean, I wasn't a massive fan of Little Devil. What I did notice was that the idea of Little Devil is that there is a little devil and he flies around and gets these kids to do naughty things. But what struck me about this was nobody seems to find that unusual.
I found that interesting. And
They all accept.
Yeah.
They'll completely accept there's a devil flying about telling them things.
Yeah. And then when the devil suggests things to them, they go, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." And it's like, "Hang on a minute,
Yeah.
have another look." I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
think about it. It looks like a devil.
Maybe there are beautiful examples, or they don't judge people on appearance. So you look like a flying devil who's doing devilish things, but I shall not judge you. Give you the benefit of the doubt repeatedly over the course of an entire page of the comic.
I think they're just stupid.
I think they're just stupid. I agree. But there's one other thing I wanted to say about, which just brought on to there's a strip called Ginger's Tongue. It says at the top, a great new story of a Wizard and Chip's favourites. So it's a new story of Ginger Tum, who appears in Wizard and Chips. Ginger Tum is a ginger cat who eats a lot. And there's a lovely thing here where there's a pie. You know, people were always baking pies in the 70s. That's what probably an apple pie, knowing how it would go, on a coal fire. But the thing that really got me was that, like, Ginger Tum tries to steal a pie. A young man is then blamed for the crime by his auntie. And his auntie says, "You naughty nephew, eating that pie yourself. You know I make them specially for hungry callers." What? How many people are coming around her house?
Loads of them.
And then she puts this lad, who looks about 16 years old, over a knee and slaps his bottom. He's like, what strange house? Because Ginger Tum's going, he's got 6 massive pies.
He's done well out of it.
How many callers is this auntie? This just seems quite odd to me.
That's what she spends all day making these enormous pies for these hundreds of people who come around to get food.
Get free pies.
Free pies, yeah. If she had a sign free pies outside, that wouldn't explain anything. That would be just as weird. I'm trying to find some reason for her behaviour. There isn't. What I liked about this strip was that the cat throws the pie in the boy's face. And I always used to really love any pictures of slapstick. Any pictures of pies being thrown in faces or buckets of water being chucked over people. I used to copy this sort of thing, try and learn how to draw these things because I was so fascinated by it. So it's nice to see that in this whole comic, here and there, mainly here.
I think the whole thing, the comic as a whole, it's a nice example of one of these comics. It's got all the themes, all the features in it. A lot of the artists that we like are in it. Some of the strips are in it. But I always find there's a bit of a mental disconnect when you read it and you go, I'm so familiar with how this works. And then it's got all these characters in it and I don't know. And you think, oh, that's weird. But yeah, I thought it was good. Did you like it overall? I really, really liked it. Because this is why we're doing this sort of podcast, really, to read this sort of thing. Is that why we're doing it? Yeah, not to read Marvel Madhouse. We're doing it to read this sort of thing. And I just really enjoyed it. It was just nice. You know what's going on most of the time, apart from in this particular strip. But you see what they're getting at. You know what the point of it is, to have a bit of a laugh. That's what the point is. So what was your favourite song? Super 7, without any doubt, is one of my favourite all-time comic strips. Super 7 was great, wasn't it? Yeah, I loved it. And I liked... I loved that one. I thought that was... Did you? I sort of got a special place in my heart for the Toffs and the Tuffs, because it's so deranged. That one. It is a bit mad. I know you like your deranged comic strips, I know. And is there anything you didn't like? The rest of it. No, not at all. That was a cheap joke. I apologise to IPC. Is this IPC or is it Fleetway? What is it? This is DC. I still don't know the difference. This is IPC / Fleetway, now owned by Rebellion. Thank you. The one I didn't like was I really hated Son of Sir. Actually, okay. I just thought it was very, very dull. Fair enough. But the rest of it is nice and sparkly. So well done, Knockout from 1972. 1972. So all that remains then is to give you next week's comic. Oh, what could that be? So we're flashing forward by 13 years. Oh, right. To Hoot comic. Never heard of it. But it looks fun. So I look forward to reading that. Cool, Bennett is about 2 pages. This looks good. Yeah, this would be fun to have a look at. Britain's bubbling new comic. That's what it says there. That's what it says there. We'll find. Will that be as truthful as the great all-colour weekly treat? Find out in the next exciting edition of the Funny Comics Fan Club. Until then, it's good night from me. And also from him. And also like and subscribe as well. Crackerjack. Goodbye. Bye-bye.